Hey everypone, Digibro here, and you are on what is probably going to be the last day of vlog week. I know, sad to see it go. But today's vlog is one that I've been planning pretty much all year, not necessarily for this channel, and it's going to be an odd one for this channel because I'm going to talk about music. And since everyone has different musical taste, and because I've never really talked about music on this channel before, and who knows if you'll have any interest in the things I'm going to talk about, it might be a weird one that doesn't appeal to everyone. But anyway, I have been all year preparing for my top albums of 2013 list. And the reason it's so important to me this year is that this is the first year I've ever been current about music. I've been a diehard music fan for a very long time. I've been obsessively into pretty much most genres of music. This year was when I discovered the internet's busiest music nerd, Anthony Fantano, a music reviewer on YouTube whom I like a lot, and I was watching a lot of his videos and it kept me up to date on new music, so I got to listen to a ton of new music this year and pretty much always kept up with it. This was also the year when I first got into rap music. I had never really been able to break into the genre before, but after discovering Kendrick Lamar and Clipping and Death Grips early in the year, and I started getting into bands like those, and then I got pretty into rap music this year, so you'll see that pretty well represented on this list. This is a fairly short list, it's only 22 albums, but all of them are albums that I listened to a lot this year. This is a no-joke sort of top list. It's only 22, it would be 25, but there are 3 albums on this list that I have been forbidden to listen to by the person who created them, so they won't be brought up, but they would probably fall in around the area of 10 to 15 on this list if they were allowed to be included. But here's the other 22. So I guess without further ado, I'll talk about my top 22 albums of 2013. At number 22 is The Faceless Mask by Astalot. This is probably the most obscure thing on this list, if not the most obscure thing I've listened to all year. Astalot is a band that I saw the song from this album called Atlas's Burden was posted on Reddit like last year, probably this time last year, and I commented on their video, and I was one of a few people who commented, and so they put me on their mailing list on YouTube, I guess. And so when the new album came out, I gave it a listen. It was one of the first things I bought on Bandcamp, and I enjoy it. It's only 5 tracks. It definitely feels like a band that has just found their voice. They play a sort of fusion of doom metal and prog metal. So if you've ever listened to bands like Arion or something, it has a sort of that vibe, but with a doom metal sound, like something along the lines of almost like Isis, or this sort of crushing heaviness to them, but very clean production for such an unknown EP. Like, these guys clearly went into the studio and made sure their stuff was good, even though no one's heard it, which is kind of sad. You know, it's not far from my favorite album of the year. It's at the bottom of my list, but I do think it's a good little release that people should give a shot, and maybe it deserves to be a little bit more popular, and I'd definitely like to see what they're going to do with their next release. At number 21 is Decompositions Volume Number 1 by Circle Takes the Square. This is the only band on this list that I was a big fan of before this year, and their new album is a little bit disappointing, if only because their first album, or their second one rather, was one of my favorite albums of all time. It's like in my top 10. And this one was a long time coming. It's been like 8 years since their last album. They had the first 4 tracks were released as an EP like a year and a half ago, or even 2 years ago, and I really like those 4 tracks, especially the first song is one of my favorites by the band. But the rest of the album, when it came out, most of it didn't really strike me that much. The album is kind of long and very chaotic, so it's kind of hard to listen to, and I just didn't end up listening to it that much. Nothing really stuck out to me upon repeated listens. So, but I mean, it's good. It's definitely good. It just didn't hit me well enough to be like higher up. I expected it to be one of my favorite albums of the year, so that's why, even though it's on my list, I'm mostly talking about being let down by it. But the first track and the last track, both of which are pretty long, we're talking 9 and 10 minutes, no, 9 and 11 minutes respectively, maybe, and both of them are really great, so those tracks alone make the album worthwhile. Number 20 is Government Plates by Death Grips. I got into Death Grips this year. They're a fairly new band. They've been around since 2011, I think, and I discovered all of their work this year. Their first album, Ex-Military, is probably one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time as of this year. Their second album, The Money Store, is also fantastic. No Love Deep Web's a great album. I like that one too. Government Plates is not nearly as good as any of those three, I think. It's a very experimental album. It's very short. It came out of nowhere. They didn't announce it at all. They just suddenly released it on YouTube and on their website, and people were like, holy fuck, where did this come from? A couple of the songs on there stand out. The first two tracks in particular are like these really banging, they sort of sound like No Love Deep Web tracks or something, and they're really good. The song Birds is really experimental and out there, but still really good. And the final track, Whatever I Want, Fuck Who's Watching, is an exciting, fun song that's sort of like trance, but weird and noisy. These songs are trippy as fuck. Like, Death Grips is always trippy, and these are their weirdest songs yet, and they're still pretty good. But then the rest of the album is a bunch of really short, repetitive songs that get old really quick. So if all of the album was as good as the two or three like really standout tracks, it would have been one of my favorites of the year, but it stands at 20 instead. At number 19, we have Harmony's Bond by Jof the Loaf and Megaphoric. This is a Brony album, and I happen to be friends with both of the people who made it. It's very cute songs for the most part. They're sort of folksy pop singer-songwriter tracks with heavy usage of acoustic guitars and piano and singing. I believe Megaphoric told me that they were going for a sort of Disney, like cheesy Disney song vibe with the album, and I can definitely see where that proves true. And the song Honest to Me is one of my favorite tracks of the year, very well made. I love listening to these guys because they're adorable, because they are in fact a couple, and so like knowing that and listening to them sing together just added to why I enjoyed the release so much. Only 5 tracks, but all of them are pretty good. After that, at number 18, we have the EP Around by the band Whir. Whir is a shoegaze band with tons and tons of like reverby sound. It sounds like they're playing loud guitars in someone's, not even a garage, more like a warehouse or something, and you're recording from a distance, but it's very good. The whole album is kind of samey. There's like 4 tracks. They're all around 7 minutes long. They all have the same sort of vibe to them. So, and it's very short. But I think all of it's good. It's a very good, like, put this on and go to bed kind of album for me, which I value because I put on music every time I go to bed. So having albums like that I can just listen to and sort of chill is always good for me. At number 17, we have Before These Mighty Skies by Les Soldat Pony. Yet again, a Pony album release. Les Soldat Pony plays this sort of folksy, mostly guitar and like noise. I don't know what kind of noise it is. He plays like these sort of I don't know how to describe it. It sounds like he's holding his guitar up to an amp or something and just letting it make like wah kind of noises. And there's a lot of that. I don't really know what I'm talking about. And a lot of acoustic guitar. His voice is amazing. Personally, my favorite vocalist in the Brony fandom. And the song Beautiful Discord is my second favorite song of the year, one of my favorite songs of all time. That song alone would put this album on my top favorites list. So yeah, Before These Mighty Skies is definitely worth a look. It has a lot of influence from Sufjan Stevens' album Come On Feel the Illinois, which I was the only one who called that, and he was like, oh yeah, you're the first person to notice. So yeah, good stuff. At number 16, I have Das Tor by Paysage de Hivre. I don't know how to pronounce it. This is I think, French black metal band. Atmospheric black metal. The whole thing is in the worst recording quality imaginable. It literally sounds like... I used to record a lot of stuff on this little vocal recorder, like a portable little device that was like $30 that I'd carry around with me, and it sounds like it was recorded on one of those. But it's this like really blistering black metal tracks that aren't really so much heavy as they are atmospheric. There's a lot of wind noise on this album. Like, the full album comes out to almost an hour with only 4 tracks on it, and I'd say a good 6 or 7, no, maybe even 10 minutes of that is just wind noise in between tracks. But it really puts you in a place, that's for sure. Like, it puts you in the forests in the winter, which to me the best black metal is stuff that it feels atmospheric and really like feels like a location. So probably one of my favorite black metal albums. At number 15, I have MBV, the new My Bloody Valentine album. This one is super dreamy and floaty, and you just kind of feel like you're very background music, I'd say, to an extent that none of the tracks really stand out to me, which is why this isn't higher up on the list. I like every song, but none of them are like grab me. It's really background music. I like listening to it while playing video games and stuff, and just sort of having it there. And I don't have much else to say about it, so yeah, good stuff. At number 14, I have Loud City Song by Julia Holter. This is an album of really experimental sort of singer-songwriter stuff. I don't know how to describe any of it. It's definitely like nothing else I've ever listened to, really. It's extremely atmospheric pop music? I don't know. I really don't know what genre this falls into. You'd have to listen to it for yourself. It's very spacious and airy are words I'd use to describe it. The first track is almost just vocals with these really soft, like, and eerie violins playing in the background. Julia Holter's voice is amazing, so that it carries a lot of the songs. Yeah, it's an interesting experience. I can't say any of the songs from it are like one of my favorite songs or anything, but all of it has a very thick tone, and it's interesting and mysterious. At number 13, I have Obsidian by Baths. This is some great electronic music, really interesting sounds. I don't know how to describe those sounds, but they're interesting sounds. It's very thick. There's like a thick-ass bass on every song. Lots of, if you've ever played Minecraft, it reminds me of the Minecraft soundtrack, which is another really great soundtrack, but with vocals on it and more of a pop structure to it. Which, interestingly enough, from what I understand, Baths did not use to really have a lot of vocals on like the Cerulean album, which is more popular, but this one is more of a pop sensible kind of album. I like it. I particularly like the song Miasma Sky is one of my favorite like dance songs of the year. It's very much something you can just not even really dance. It's a trance song, but very low key and sort of just like bob your head and be like, yeah, miasma sky, would you swallow me alive? Worth a listen. That song, No Eyes, is another good one. There's a few tracks that completely fall flat for me that I don't care for at all, that I just removed from the album, and considering it's pretty short, that's not a good thing. Having a few songs that I don't like on an album that short kind of kills a lot of it, but the songs that are good are that good that I'd keep it up there. What are the odds I completely forgot to list this album on my first recording, which is why everything looks different. Anyway, coming in at number 12, I think, is Melt Banana's new album, Fetch. This is a very frenetic, energetic, intense, punk, noise, psychedelic trip of an album. It happens very fast, it's over quickly, but it's a lot of fun to listen to. I've found that it's the perfect soundtrack for Zelda for me. I don't know why. Zelda and this album go together perfect. Any Zelda. I played a bunch of them while listening to it. None of the individual tracks really stand out super heavily to me. None of it's like, oh my god, this is one of my favorite songs. But altogether as an experience, it's a fun, great listen that I recommend if you like high-pitched, almost obnoxious, but just fun and infectious songs. At number 11 is The Eulogy by Cakes da Killa, a mixtape of rap songs that are extremely hype, very dense, active, energetic rap songs with beats that are all over the place that really make you get out of your seat and start dancing. And Cakes da Killa himself, I'm going to tell you, now I'm not telling you that he's an effeminate gay black man because it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not saying that because, oh, it's something weird about him that you should know. It's because that's his lyrical content. He pretty much raps about really intense gayness, and I love that. I don't know why, but I really love listening to him rap about, like, being a male prostitute, essentially. And the lyrics are a lot of fun. He has songs like Bitch I Wanna Fuck Your Boyfriend and He Only Want Me For My Goody Goodies. Super danceable, super energetic songs, super flamboyant, and it just makes you get up and dance. Unfortunately, again, this is another case where not every song on the album is that good. There's like 3 or 4 like really highlight tracks Again, Goody Goodies, Fuck Your Boyfriend, Keep It Coochie is one of my favorites. But there's some others that I could just skip, and it's, again, a short album, so that's not a good thing. At number 10 is Survived by Touche Amore. This is a screamo album, I guess, sort of post-hardcore screamo kind of thing. Screamed vocals, very passionate, emotional guitars, which is interesting. Guitars can't always be described as passionate and emotional, but here they definitely can. The lyrics are very meta, like the guy's singing about the difficulties of trying to write music and stuff like that, and a lot of it I found very relatable and interesting, and it hit me on a personal level. So the album for me is very cathartic because it's lyrical content that I can appreciate personally, and so I can kind of get more into the music that way. At number 9, I have the self-titled debut by Run the Jewels, which is the collaboration of Killer Mike and LP, both southern rappers. This is the most just banging, hard-hitting, fun rap album. It's kind of cheesy. It's like the lyrics are all like typical rap lyrics, but clever. Like they're clearly self-aware, dumb rap songs. They'll sing about how they're run the jewels. They're like, oh yeah, we're gangsters, we're gonna beat people, and like, you know, we're the kings of the turf, but they're clearly not serious about it. Like, they're obviously not real gangsters, and a lot of the lyrics are cheeky and kind of funny, but they're a lot of fun. It's the kind of album you put on when you want to put on that kind of character, when you just want to be like, yo, I'm gonna step in here and just wreck shit. And God, I sound whiter than all fuck right now. That's the whitest I've ever come off in anything ever. I'm sorry. At number 8, Like Clockwork by Queens of the Stone Age. This is an album that I love, but I really want to love a lot more because it's only 10 songs and 45 minutes, and of those, about half of them are phenomenal. Keep Your Eyes Peeled, My God Is the Sun, fucking Smooth Sailing, Fairweather Friends, I Appear Missing. All of these tracks are really great. I think all the ones I just named are on my top 100 tracks of the year list, which, by the way, I don't think I've brought it up yet, but I made a top 100 songs of the year list. It has a YouTube playlist, so you can listen to all 100 of them on YouTube, as well as a Tumblr post if you just want to see a list of them. And so, yeah, a bunch of the songs from this album are on my list, but there's also some that I don't like really at all, that I usually skip, and it's only 45 minutes long. It's so close to being amazing. This album takes me back a lot. It reminds me of when I used to be really into bands like the Mars Volta, early Coheed and Cambria. It's got that sort of, like, there's clearly a narrative here, and you can really feel like this sort of vibe and story and world that the album is creating that is very interesting, with these rock songs that have a bit of a, not even really a prog edge, but they're definitely a little out there. I don't know what it is about the songwriting here that makes it stand out so much, but this album doesn't sound like anything else, yet it really does just feel like a rock album. So it's an interesting piece of work. It's very accessible while also being very unique. At number 7, I have Art Pop by Lady Gaga. This album has the opposite of the problem that the last few albums I noted has. This album was actually too long. It was 60 minutes, and for me, for a pop album, that's exhausting. But I trimmed off all the songs I didn't like, so it's about 35 to 40 minutes for me now, and all of the songs are amazing at that point. This album has so many memorable, fun, danceable songs. I get out of my seat, I start dancing. And when I say I start dancing, I mean I dance like a pop star. I don't just shuffle. I get up, I get active, I move my arms. You know what I'm saying? I go around the room. I dance my heart out to this shit. This is my shit. More importantly, Art Pop is a great album to play video games too, because it's just big and fun and it gets you energized. I love it. I don't always have the energy for this album. I cannot listen to this while I'm like sitting there writing a review or something, because it's just way too much energy for me to handle at that moment, but it's a good get up and dance album. At number 6, I have Mid-City by Clipping. This is a harsh, noisy rap album. It got me into harsh noise this year, which was a big deal. This is how I got into like bands like Death Grips, was through clipping and the abrasive textures of their music. This is music to be played loud. It is music to like not thrash to because it's very sparse, but every sound is crazy and just like this is an album where a track opens with and then there's like a rap over it. The rap lyrics are a lot of fun. David can rap really fast, and his lyrical content is sort of like Run the Jewels, where he's rapping about all this like classic gangster kind of imagery and doing it tongue-in-cheek, but it's not really played like, whereas Run the Jewels is funny and it really feels like they're playing it for laughs. With this album, it's more meant to be like a pulp movie or like a even film noir kind of thing, where it's like it's self-aware of what it's doing, but it does a good job of it. It feels seedy and dark and dirty and bleak, but a lot of fun to listen to. And there's some songs on here that have some of the most interesting concepts in rap songs I've heard all year, like the track Story, where it literally tells a story with a really dramatic twist at the end that is conveyed through the music and the lyrics to really sell the punchline home. So yeah, there's some really interesting themes and great tracks on this album. This is where we're getting into like my top tier best albums. Stuff that's going to be on my top 100 favorite albums of all time list starts at Mid-City right here. So at number 5, I have Anamanaguchi with Endless Fantasy. This is like nearly 80 minutes, I think, of just pure, pulse-pounding, intense, awesome chiptune music. These guys play what is borderline power metal with super light, happy SNES style chiptune songs playing over it, and it just is energizing as shit. This is the music you listen to if you just want to have fun all day. Danceable, not really singable because there's barely any lyrics, but the songs that do have vocals are really good. Probably my favorites on the album because I am biased towards songs with vocals, but even though most of it doesn't have vocals, it's still fantastic, very memorable. It takes some getting into because it's so much of just constant intensity for so long that it took me a while to get into the album. Once I did, it was one of my favorites. At number 4 is Cavalcade, a mixtape by the rapper Milo. This mixtape is only, I think, 7 tracks, and I only ever listened to 6. There's one, Baal Chiglian, that I cut out of my rotation because I don't like the way it flows with the rest of the album, but the other 6 tracks are phenomenal. This is the most dense and atmospheric rap music that I think I've ever heard, and Milo is probably my favorite rapper because he is the most relatable to me. This is a guy who raps about philosophy, introspection, just general internet culture because he's very much a product of the internet. He's very into like the nerd cultures and stuff like that. So a lot of his songs are about those kind of things. And I mean, this is a guy who's used probably the word analyze like 5 times in his songs. So you know that's, you know, like it's like looking in a mirror. It's like if I was a rap star, this is what I would be rapping about. So Cavalcade has these very emotional songs, lots of sampling, and the samples are really interesting, and it puts me in a world and a place that I really like being in. It would be my number 2 or 3 album of the year if it was longer, but it's only, for me, 6 tracks. So 3 of those are some of my favorites of the year, 2 of them in my top 10, so definitely a phenomenal album. Number 3, I have Things That Happen at Day and Things That Happen at Night by, once again, Milo. This was 2 EPs that he released at the beginning of the year. I grouped them into one album because I liked them about the same amount. They really flow well into each other. They feel like 2 halves of a whole, so I don't really see the point in separating them. And I didn't get into these until later. I was into Cavalcade a lot earlier than I was into these 2 EPs, but then I got really into them, and just because there's more content there is why they placed it number 3. But there are some really fantastic songs here. The beats are a lot more sparse and less dense than on Cavalcade, which is why they took me longer to get into. But some of the tracks have some of the coolest lyrics, best rap flows, most interesting beats. If you ever listen to Post Hoc Ergo Propter Hoc, which I think is my top rated song from these albums on my top 100 list, you get this like dark cyberpunk, almost steampunk beat going on, and just interesting introspective lyrics. These are phenomenal albums that everyone should give a shot. At number 2 is Hokey Fright by The Uncluded. This is the collaboration of Kimya Dawson and Aesop Rock. Kimya Dawson being a indie folk singer of sorts, and Aesop Rock being a rapper. And the combination seems really unlikely, but it works perfectly. The two of them are good friends. They have really friendly, great chemistry together on this album, and it just is so feel good. Like, right from the beginning, even before getting into the individual tracks, the whole thing feels really good and friendly. These are songs about friendship and about life and about living, and a lot of the lyrical concepts are just stuff you won't get anywhere else. Some of the most unique lyrics, interesting, engaging lyrics that I've ever heard. Musically, the album reminds me a lot of early Gorillaz stuff because it combines so many different styles and textures, and each track on the album is like totally different. You'll have one that's like the soft piano with singing over it, and then you'll have one that's like a banging rap song, and then these like weird obscure stuff. It's all over the place, and as a result, some of the tracks fall a little short. There's a number of songs on here that I find kind of skippable or don't really care about as much as the others, but there's so much good here. When I was putting together my top 100 songs list, my number 1 is from this album, Zombie Cafe. I feel a great connection with that song. It makes me feel really nostalgic. It's a song about just wanting your friends to feel better, and there's lyrics from it that whenever I want my friends to feel better, whenever someone's feeling down, I always think of, I wish that your headaches would subside, my friend, and that your healing isn't just a case of double contact lens. And I just start singing it in my head as a reaction to that emotion. And I remember it takes me back to having it stuck on my head when I was on the plane on the flight to and from my girlfriend's house in September. I remember that I became friends with Skywatcher through this song because he made his first review was of the Uncluded album, and he did a cover of the song at the end, and me and him became friends, and he's been the number 1 person I talk to about music all year. So that friendship basically came from this song. So it has a lot of emotional baggage for me already, and it's just such a good feel-good song. And that's just one track on this album. There's a bunch of others that are also really memorable and stick out to me. So yeah, that would be almost my number 1 if it weren't for the fact that my number 1 is Acid Rap by Chance the Rapper. This is probably one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time, hands down. Almost every track on here is phenomenal. The only one I don't like is Smoke Again, where Absol ruins it with his awful verse. But we forget about that track. The other 11 songs on here are all phenomenal. And this is an album that me and all of my friends got into equally, so everyone has been listening to it like crazy pretty much since it came out, or at least since, I want to say July or so. We all got really into this album. I've heard it probably over 100 times just in the last 8 months. So it's already so ingrained into my consciousness that I feel nostalgic about it already. Like, I already think back on these songs like they're old friends of mine. I can listen to this whole album, and there'll be a song I'm looking forward to because I know that's one of my favorites, and then every song leading up to it, I'm like, oh my god, this is so much better than I remember. This album is so good every single time. It's really a classic. There's so many good singles on here. Like, every song can be listened to on its own, which is rare for an album that's this good, because typically I get into albums and I have to listen to the whole thing all the way through. This album, every single song stands alone, and yet they all work together. It's really just amazing. It's super fucking good. Cocoa Butter Kisses and the outro, Everything's Good, are 2 of my top 5, I think, favorite songs of the year on my top 100 list. A bunch of other stuff from here on there as well. Each of my friends has a different favorite song from the album. Almost all of them consider it their favorite album, either of all time or of the year. So again, it's really close to me at this point. And the reason I love it so much is that it just feels good. Every song is about feeling good about yourself and feeling good about the way life is going and treating you. It's the ultimate feel good. The opening song is even better than I was the last time, baby. Ooh, 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 I'm good. And it just puts you right in the mood. You know, it's just Chance singing about how happy he is to be where he is and how he's got all these opportunities and just feels good about life now. And, you know, there's some songs that are a little bit more introspective, a little bit more sad, where he deals with his problems, but those little parts help you appreciate the happiness even more. You know, when you think about the darker little aspects of it, of life, then it makes the great things stand out even more. And there's almost every track on here is a song for the ages. There's songs on here that I'm going to be singing 10 years from now, so definitely one of my favorite albums of all time, my favorite album of 2013, and that wraps up the list. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to God you'll go listen to some of these. I am 100% certain that there's something on here you've never heard of before, because I think I'm the only person who's heard of a couple of these. So there's definitely something you haven't explored, and you should always be trying to expand your musical horizons if you're into music. So check them all out. Let me know what you think of them, if any of your favorite albums of the year are on here, or if you go and listen to any of these and then come back and tell me about them. Let me know what you think. Some of it's probably a little weird, and you're going to go listen to it and be like, what the fuck? But that's cool. That's part of the fun. So anyway, that's it for Vlog Week. I might do another one of these. Maybe I'll do a Vlog Week once every month if there's a demand for it. I didn't lose more subscribers than I gained over the course of the last week, so I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. And that's it. Digi Bro, top albums of 2013. Forever.